Hey, good Friday morning and welcome back to Dakota News. Now it is time for another edition of Owning Your Outdoors, and joining me as always is Doug from Lewis. And Doug, this time we're on location at where?
We are at Colville Lake, the Japanese Gardens. One of the big gems of Sioux Falls as far as I'm concerned. Anybody that's been here for a number of years knows the location and how beautiful it is here. Lots of weddings and a lot of things happen here.
Oh yeah, absolutely gorgeous. And we have a guest with us today. Why don't you go ahead and introduce her?
Yes, her name is Mary Connolly. She's a consummate gardener, very professional. She's a master gardener and has actually owned her own nursery at one point.
Right, and an expert when it comes to the Japanese garden, right?
Yeah, she knows. She was on the original committee that refurbished and brought the Japanese gardens back to what it is today.
So, Mary, we're in a particular location. Why don't you go ahead and explain the importance of it to us?
Okay, well, first of all, I want to emphasize about the importance of this, that the Parks Department has made this a priority and how they maintain it so beautifully. The garden was the brainchild, first of all, by Mr. Joseph Maddox, who was the park caretaker back in the 20s. So he envisioned an Oriental or a Chinese garden, which was really done more in a grotto, sort of Madame Butterfly style. It was kind of a social point of Sioux Falls history. You know, imagine Sioux Falls was much, much smaller then, and this garden became a sort of a social place to date, to stroll, to gather. And then during the World War II, things kind of fell apart, and then from those decades to the 80s, it just sort of lay here in ruin. So a group in the 80s got together. The city put forward money with the CIP. We got money from Toshiba America, the Japanese Embassy, and the DAR Mary Chilton Foundation, and also several private donations to pull this place back together.
Well, it is beautiful, Mary, and you've done a great job. I just love walking through here. How about let's go on a little tour.
Mary, where are we right now? Kind of explain what we're looking at and the importance of it.
So this would be part of the original architecture, landscape architecture that Mr. Maddox had envisioned. And so, of course, there's many, many weddings that are here. And when in the 80s, when we decided to restore this place, Dr. Kawana came to help us. He was a professor at the university system in California. He was an architecture, landscape architecture teacher. So when he came, he envisioned this as a strolling garden. So that's probably one of the main features, is the way you stroll in and the way you stroll out, to invite you to contemplate or meditate and enjoy the beauty of nature.
There's a plaque up there. What's the significance of that plaque?
The Women's Club of Sioux Falls was also involved very heavily in this area, and the plaque was given by the Better Homes and Gardens More Beautiful America Award, and was given to the Women's Club, and you see it's mounted up there, 1934, I believe. I think one of the main things to think about or notice when you're here is the terracing. Of course, we're in Terrace Park, but how the terraces come down the hill towards the lake. And I just love this part where you see these series of parallel walls and with the old Japanese lanterns. Now, those lanterns were original. However, many of them were broken and ruined. And then when we first started, the first stage of the restoration down here was just getting out all the volunteer trees and the weeds, and also repairing and restoring the Japanese lanterns, which was done through the prison inmates at the time. So, what I enjoyed about the garden especially is the plant life. And there are original plants here from the beginning, and this, of course, this big old cottonwood tree is one of them. It's probably one of the nicest trees in the area. And then otherwise with plants, it's about contrasting foliage. It's nothing really loud and colorful. It's more about contemplative plants.
All right, so Mary, go ahead and tell us a little bit about the future of the Japanese gardens.
In order to talk about the future, we need to talk about the last 30 years. And about 30 years ago, we contacted Ben Chu, who was one of the main horticulturists at the Missouri Botanic Garden. And so for the last 28 years, he has been coming to prune our gardens. Every June he comes, and he is the main spark that's kept our group together, the original group from the 80s that kind of got this going, along with the city. And so, of course, unfortunately, Ben was not able to come this year because of the virus. And but in the future, we planned that he will still be coming as many years as he's able hopefully that'll last another 20 years.
Well, Mary, this was a fantastic tour. Just want to wish everybody a happy 4th of July. And if you have some time, come on down and walk the Japanese gardens this weekend. It'll be worth your while.
Just make sure that you're staying hydrated too, because it's going to be hot this weekend too.
Yes.
So, Doug, Mary, thank you so much for joining us this morning. We'll have all this information online at dakotanewsnow.com. Stick around because Fastcast is coming up next.